Cool. And we're live.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man.
2-week break there.
Was
both kind of needed it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, getting out of my comfort zone the last couple months with the radio gig I'm doing now, and just being in an organization.
Yeah.
And then seeing, new clients and just seeing different another sphere of people.
Okay.
It's been really good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been interesting.
Okay.
It's been interesting. But I want to talk about where we are today, in your opinion, with the idea of conviction and principle.
Oh, okay.
It's easy to look at a politician, especially today, and see what I guess we call it flip-flopping today, or just basically selling ideas or pandering to say anything to get elected. We kind of expect that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think most politicians have a way of navigating the majority opinion and, kind of tailoring their, we'll call them principles or convictions to appease the majority, at least in their opinion.
Okay. So I think that's kind of expected. And when you look at the sales function traditionally in business going back 100 years, there's a lot of different opinions of sales, but where sales tends to get a bad rap at times is because people, I'm being sold. I'm being told something that's what they think I want to hear, and it might not be based on reality, but it's based to get me to take action to acquire something of theirs.
Okay.
So we kind of expect elements of we shouldn't, but we kind of expect
elements of deceit.
Elements of deceit.
Not
varying degrees.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to go further than that. I want to go to our basic interaction with each other, whether it's social, whether it's business, whether it's even family. I feel like we are okay more today with blending our fantasy of how we wish life was and blending that with reality, and then having them merge and then presenting a different or a reality to the world, to other people, that is not actually accurate.
Yeah, I mean,
more than ever, I think now. I think that we're almost expected to believe what someone says as face value when we probably know a good portion of it might be bull.
Well, I think authenticity is lacking in society today, because again, we have, especially with the emergence of social media, right? Social media has created a platform for people to show themselves to the world, and they show the picture they want the world to see. They don't show the authentic picture. So I think people just, I think there's it's very hard to expect authenticity from someone in the world we live in today. And I think when you can spot authenticity very easily when you come across a person that truly is authentic. But I think there is this this almost knee-jerk reaction to, like you said, paint the picture that you want the world to see.
Because the tools are available.
Yeah, it's very easy. Think about just going on social media, the filters you can use. I can make myself look 10 years younger, 20 years younger if I want to, and no one knows any difference. You can create, backgrounds and lighting, so you can change the way you actually appear on video. If we wanted to, this live stream we're on right now, we could probably create filters or set filters that would make us look like we're in our 30s.
Sure. And I'm sure we could alter our voice. There's probably all kinds of crazy things we can do. So then because we know this, though, are we now adjusting the way we live in terms of how we evaluate our reality and the people in it?
I think some people do. I think most people, again, we come back to this all the time on critical thinking. I think most people don't critically think, so they'll take things at face value. I think if you're a critical thinker, you will be wildly successful in this world, because if you have the ability to critically think and see through a lot of the bull that people put out there, you'll be head and shoulders above most people. But most people, at least in my opinion, don't either have, I don't want to say not, they don't have the ability to think. Everybody can build the ability to critically think. They don't want to put forth the effort it takes to critically think, because critical thinking is what's required to determine if someone is being truly authentic.
Certainly.
Because you have to look at actions, words, and do they align, and not just actions situationally. Actions are like, I love one of my favorite quotes is, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Because that's truly authenticity, right? Like, if you're going to take a shortcut, if you're going to take a shortcut in a diet, I can assume you're going to take a shortcut at work. Because if you're taking,
it speaks to one's character.
Exactly right.
And habits.
And, absolutely. And I think that is
discipline or lack thereof.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to remember, because I think critical thinkers will judge people that way. Because I know I do. Like, I look at how people do things.
Mm-hmm.
And I can look at the way a person works, the work product they produce, how they produce it, the time they come in, the time they leave, and I can start discerning the type of employee or business partner or colleague that person's going to be, just by the way they do certain things. I can assume they're going to do everything that way.
Are we headed to a world, maybe not in our lifetime, but maybe in our later years, where there will truly be two of everybody? Meaning there'll be the reality of dealing with the physical person face to face, in whatever capacity that is. And then there will be the online person, which is for most people, and it's not an indictment, it's just a fact, is different than the person in reality. Are we headed to a world where everybody will have a dual presence?
I think we live in that world now. And when I say dual presence, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I think people are multifaceted by nature, right? There's multiple sides to us. I think, because look, I'm the same person in all situations, but people may view me differently, right? If you're dealing with me in a business context,
you have different roles,
right? Like, so that's what I'm saying. So I could be looked at as having, dual, personas.
Let me go deeper though.
Okay.
Because I don't think you'd be a candidate for this. What I'm getting at, go back to what you were talking about, those who are not critically thinking during the day, or thinking about their life or what they are and who they stand for and what their personal philosophy is. And they're constantly grasping, and they've created an online persona, and they've curated it. And it's a lot of it's maybe based in fantasy.
Okay.
And then they have to deal with their actual self at their job, in whatever face-to-face communications they choose to participate in. That's what I'm getting at. Like, it almost, as deep as this is going to sound, it almost becomes like for certain people, because of their unwillingness to really have conviction or be a principled person, because either it's too difficult or they don't want to put the effort in to understand themselves, they actually are creating two separate identities that I'm wondering, is that going to become normalized in society, where we're going to have to maneuver like, okay, there's online Bill, and then if you meet Bill, there's in-person Bill, and they're two completely different people.
Well, I think that's the assumption now, that the online version of a person is different than the face-to-face version. Because if you just observe people, right? People that meet somebody online, then meet them in person. The majority of times I will hear from overhearing a conversation, oh, like you're exactly like you are online. I wouldn't have expected that.
I get that. I get that.
So the expectation is you have created an online persona, but your in-person persona is going to be different. That I think is the assumption, right? So when people have a cohesive dual persona where one is like the other, that shocks people, because that's not the expectation. The expectation is you can create social media, your persona on social media, look however you want. So that is something you've created, but that is not who you are.
Right.
That's the expectation. So when
right.
that vision or that version of you on social media is the same as it is when I meet you face to face, most people are like, oh, like I wouldn't have expected that. And so it's happening now, I believe.
Don't you think that that adds a level of complexity to our world that is just on the outside, from my singular perception or perspective, is just completely unnecessary?
Well, I mean, think about
adding a level of complexity, I think, to life.
Yeah, but look at it this way. Today is the least complex our life will ever be.
100%.
Just because every day there's more information, there's more things happening, there's more complexity.
It's moving faster.
It's moving so fast. Like just looking back at this year, like we're what, August 15th? Like the past 8.5 months, like so much has changed.
Yeah. I saw your post that this has been probably the most challenging year for you.
It's been the most challenging year for me. It's been a dumpster fire. It's been a dumpster fire. But again, like I said in that video, it was, we needed a year like this because it caused a lot of shit to rise to the surface that we weren't necessarily seeing, that now we can address and move forward from. But it has been, professionally for me, this has been the most challenging year of my life. Just because there's so many things that have happened, so many breakdowns, so many shifts in perspective, just so many variables in my life that have crept in during this year, which has been a professional challenge, which has made it even more challenging. But again, like I like the challenge because it creates new skills. It sharpens the iron, so to speak. And I think it makes me better as a leader and our firm better as a whole once we get through the shit. But it's a constant evolution.
So you see this becoming this issue of having this duality that most people have, of course, to varying degrees, between their online persona and their actual being. You see that just maybe the gap between those two entities continuing to get broader.
I don't know if it will continue to get broader. I don't know if it may just constantly always be like a push, like a pull, like a different pulling, right? Because I don't think it'll ever get so far apart where it's like, oh my God, like everybody in the world is crazy. They have this one persona and then a completely different persona. I think there's always gonna be some people that pull apart. Then we kind of, constrict back in, then pull. It's going to be a constant movement, I think. I mean, think about yourself, right? If people looked at your online persona, they would think you're a very extroverted person. You have a podcast, you talk to a bunch of people, you're a real estate agent, you're a radio host, but like you've said many times, in public, you're an introvert.
I think I get people fatigue easy.
Right. So I mean, so that's an introverted tendency.
And I've changed over. I've become this way as I've gotten older.
Right.
I wasn't this way maybe 20, 25, 30 years ago, though.
But that's what I'm saying. Like thinking about today in this moment, if I had never met you, but I only followed you on social media, I would think you are a very extroverted, like guy that's going to talk, that's going to work a room. I'm not saying you're not that guy. But I think
I can be.
You can be, but your default is introversion. In a face-to-face setting. Well, in groups,
at least in a group setting.
That's how I view it. In a group, not one-on-one.
That's a great observation too. But it's funny. That's an example where I don't set out to project a different version of me. I think it's because of the level of diverse activities gives the illusion that.
And that's the thing. So there are people that aren't doing it intentionally. It's
all perception.
It's what you do. So people perceive you as a certain way.
Interesting.
Like even me, right? Like I'm a lawyer. So if they see me online, they may create this perception based upon what they know of lawyers, what little they've learned of me, and they put those two together and say, "Oh, this is how he must be." And then when they meet me, it's like, "Oh, that's not who you are at all." Like I was going to be this asshole.
Yeah, I get that with the realtor stuff a little bit too. Like, you're not like a realtor. I'm like, well, I don't know what a realtor is supposed to be.
Well,
like.
I mean, I get that. Like, you're not like a real lawyer. I'm like, well, I mean.
I got a real degree,
right? I have a degree, but I think because they automatically think lawyers are going to be pretentious, they're going to be condescending, they're going to think they know everything and carry themselves a certain way. I'm just like, that's not me. I don't know if it's because of me finding myself in my late 50s and
reflecting so much, but it
Mhm.
sure seems like there is an acceptable level of complexity as technology continues to grow. I mean, anyone logically who has lived through the past 50 years
Mhm.
has seen it and
Oh,
has had to dealt with it. And I was fortunate to ride the wave of some of that technology,
Mhm.
and it worked for me. I get all that. It just seems like the recent decade or so
Mhm.
of technology and how there's been opportunities for the consumers to use the technology, the average person on the street to create different personas for themselves in a variety of ways, is really has the potential to really cause some social confusion on a broad scale.
I mean, I agree completely. Again, I think that's happening now. There's a lot of social confusion. Just observe people, right? Like observe people when they meet somebody online, then they meet them in person. It's a totally different world out there.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot of that social confusion right now
Hmm.
because people want to. I think the way I look at the world now is, I think people are quick to judge. Like they'll meet you and they've already formed their opinion about you. So it's like they've already met you online. We'll say, meet you in person. They have their opinion of you going into that, and it's your job to convince them otherwise. If that is what it is. So I think that that's just how people are. People's default is to judge.
Isn't it interesting if in a parallel universe, if the most accessible version of you
Mhm.
was not the online version, but the personal version.
Yeah.
If that's what people would see first and have the most view of,
Mhm.
and it was just flipped on its head. And I don't know the mechanics of that. That's
Mhm.
it's a parallel universe.
Okay.
Where, because now the easiest access to each other is through our online personas by
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah.
But if it was reversed, where the actual
Mhm.
person was the most accessible,
Mhm.
the world would be a vastly different place.
Well, but here's the thing. So I
Vastly
think
different
it
place.
would be. I 100% agree. But I think people assume people aren't accessible face to face.
Great point.
Like I like to say, like I'm the most accessible person in my
Great point.
office, but I
Great
think a lot of
point.
my employees don't think I'm accessible.
Great point.
They don't come in my office to ask me things. Like I
Is
sit
that
there
a
with my door open.
generational thing? Is that like they
I don't
have
know.
younger generations been conditioned to believe that because of the era they grew up in with technology?
I mean, potentially. Like I haven't figured that one out, but I'm like, my door's always open. You can come with me for anything, and I tend to feel like sometimes I'm the last person they come to get information or to ask questions. When I like to think I'm the most accessible. Like I tell them that, like, I'm here to serve them.
Mhm.
Like, that's my role as a leader, to serve my people,
Mhm.
not for them to serve me. So if they need help or mentorship or guidance, they've got to come to me. I don't know what they don't know.
Right.
But I think people just assume I'm not accessible. They don't even try.
And that's the power of social media too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of you have to be, and it's so important to
Mhm.
manage that or not. It depends on one's personal level of care. For
Mhm.
me, based upon all the different activities,
Yeah.
it's really always has been an important part of my business persona and
Yeah.
and what I do. And you have to manage it. And it's like sometimes it's not a full-time job, as you know, but it's time consuming, and it does take honesty and
Yeah.
a level of humility and critically looking at oneself and all the
Mhm.
things that are uncomfortable. And if it's
Yeah.
going to be done right, you have to be willing to do that stuff. And if you don't start disciplines and doing that at a younger age,
Yeah.
I think the longer you go in life, the more uncomfortable it can be to start.
Yeah. 100%,
You know?
100%. I completely agree with that. And I think, um, I think just the world's an interesting place right now. I really do. And I think,
Well, let's go back to conviction for a second. 'Cause
Okay.
I kind of got a little bit sidetracked in a way. I know we've talked so often about personal philosophy and self-examination and
Mhm.
having the willingness to do it. But do you find that people are just less convicted on things? And hear me out. I know it's real sexy right now to belong to an extreme of a political philosophy,
Okay.
one side or the other. And those are my convictions because that's what my friends believe. Okay, I
Mhm.
get that. It's kind of like it's groupthink.
Yeah.
But in terms of the conviction, I mean, like, be deeply rooted in a belief or 2 or 10 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
Stand by it, understand the issue, and understand why you are compelled to feel that way based upon observation, personal experience. That I just don't know that we have a lot of personal conviction today, like authentic conviction. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Like,
but I think so. Let me just clarify. So you define conviction as what?
a personal belief structure regarding certain issues, any issue that you deem important,
Okay.
and how you maneuver in society, or an important belief that you need to use and know where you stand as you maneuver in society. That's the kind of conviction I'm talking about.
Can a conviction change?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
So
it shouldn't be connected to whims. I think that we can conflate whims and convictions almost interchangeably now. Or many folks, my observation, it appears that they disguise whims with the label of conviction.
Yeah, I mean, so what would be a conviction of yours?
Conviction of mine.
Just so I understand the context.
There's so many. I'm a big believer in individualism and self-reliance.
Okay. Why
self-reliance?
Why?
Because personal responsibility, I have observed from people that have exuded it through my life and my elders and people that I admired and people that I admire in my life now, has yielded generally a wonderful life for those people. And through that hard work, I've experienced personal satisfaction, achievement, and so forth. I just feel it's a better way to live.
So that conviction is really boils down to personal responsibility. Like that is truly in the essence of it.
It's all wrapped up in that. Yeah.
But that, cause I'm trying to break down a conviction to the essence of what it is, right? To me, that's a conviction, right? Personal responsibility. Like that is a conviction in a philosophy. Take personal responsibility, be accountable, like have work ethic. Like those are convictions of mine that will never change. Right. So I think, convictions are these strong stances you have on a way of operating, I think.
Well put.
Like not because then beliefs are different, right?
Yeah.
Like convictions is like, I believe in,
it could be one's religion.
Yeah. I mean, I think in my mind, like I've always, viewed convictions as like, okay, like that's work ethic. That's being responsible, being accountable, beliefs
importance of family.
Yeah. Beliefs are different. Like that's a different thing. It's more esoteric, we'll say.
Okay.
It's not action oriented.
Yeah, correct. It's more based upon faith and what you believe to be true.
Yeah,
exactly. It's esoteric, yes.
Correct. Yes. And that's where I think people get caught up, because I do think we have a lack of faith in this country. Not just religious faith, but just faith in a higher power and faith on ourselves. And I think that's a problem. Like we've removed faith from schools. We removed religion from schools, right? And to me, it's not about a particular religion. It's about the belief in faith and what having belief in faith in something does to a person. Like it changes them in a good way.
I would say this. I would say even if you take the esoteric out of it and look at it in terms of the order that it provides society, when you remove that structure, you're constantly grasping and hoping that civically we can figure that out.
Yeah. And human beings, we can't. Like we haven't been able to do that. You know what I mean? Like when you think about it, like and that's why I think, believing in God or believing in something, higher than you or being spiritual, I think is what human beings crave without understanding.
It's a foundation.
It's a foundational piece of the human experience. And I think when you try and remove that from society, it causes chaos. And that's truly what I believe they've attempted to do. And they've been doing. Like they said, let's remove religion, because religion is a foundational need, or spirituality is a foundational need of the human experience. If we remove that conviction or that belief, it creates chaos, and with chaos, you need order. And if we remove faith and religion, where does order come from? The government.
Right.
It's preservation of
And
power.
And when I've had that argument with people, and they had discussion, and I've listened to that argument, the other side, that it needs to be removed, whether it's an atheist or an agnostic would have it. I won't argue the logic under their belief structure. I understand what they're saying, but I still love the belief personally that when you remove that, then the open-ended question then is, it becomes purely moral relativism at that moment, because what he is saying by removing that order of goodness versus evil, which is basically most religions, the hierarchy of the structure of it.
Yes, correct.
That order blends into society and our laws and everything else. By removing that, then if someone was to walk up to you and say, well, I think that the idea of like good and bad is flipped completely. Like what you believe is bad, I believe is good. Right. And vice versa.
Yeah.
And why am I wrong?
Right.
My rights to believe that should be just like yours, because there's no mantra to say otherwise.
No, there's
how do you create laws? Like where's the assumption that it's wrong to kill somebody if you've removed the religious order of goodness away from that?
Correct.
Where do you go with that?
Well, and that's the problem, right? So they just, what people seem to forget is countries and laws were based upon religious principles. When you think about it, right? That's what. Then when you remove that,
for better or worse.
Yeah, but when you remove that, then like you said, it creates
order.
Order's gone, and it's order that's now created by humans, which I don't believe we're built to create order. We're built to manage chaos, but not to create.
We're also built to create chaos.
Well, absolutely, but I think order comes from like a belief. The older I get, I truly understand. I feel like I'm getting a better understanding of it, and order comes from a belief that there is something greater than me, and there's a set of rules and standards that God or whomever you believe in has created that you don't necessarily fear, but there is a level of fear.
Certainly.
And there should be. It's a healthy fear. Certainly. And I think people are, when you remove that, then it's like, well, we're going to just decide what we want the rules to be, because there's no consequences. There's, I don't believe in a higher power. So whatever happens, happens.
Well, and this is the discussion we had a while ago, and I didn't articulate it right. That's exactly what I mean when I say that I think if aliens came down here and landed on the White House, the biggest fear would be social chaos, because the idea that anything beyond their deity, their religious dogma, this breaks their brain and their souls when they come here. Because if in some fundamental religions, which is a lot of the world, it's this book and it's everything in this book verbatim, and it started here, and this is the world they know. That would break their brain and maybe make them question religion. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you can throw a monkey wrench into the system. I just feel that if you think about what we've determined as good and bad generally in society, it's kind of rooted in the 10 Commandments as like the root of it.
I mean, the 10, that is absolutely the root of it.
And when you remove that,
I mean, the one book by Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil, like that's a great book. It really talks about a lot of this, right? Like what the devil would do.
That no one knows that he wrote,
right? But to me, it's his best book.
I would agree.
I've read it so many times. I would agree. Really good book.
I would agree. Napoleon was a little weird.
He was, but it was an impactful book.
Yeah.
And again, like not trying to turn this into a religious debate, but it is. We've gotten so far away from religion in this country that when you look at, like, this is why all this shit's happening.
I
like we've just
thoroughly agree. Chaos.
We've created chaos. We've created be whatever you want to be. Like you can identify as this. You can identify as that. Like it. There are certain just fundamental things that just don't make sense. Yes. And we're too afraid to say this doesn't make sense.
Yes.
And that to me is a big problem. It's a problem for our kids as they grow up, because they're going to be the next level of leaders in this country. And then to think about them having to navigate that, like, how do you do that?
You don't, and it's troubling to me. I find it troubling. I think anytime that you, in a microcosm of what we're saying was, you had a movement 4 years ago to defund the police.
Right.
On the
Stupid
face of it, it was rooted in insanity.
Right.
If you remove the police, order will go away.
Correct.
If you remove, in theory, the 10 Commandments and all religion from any kind of even, how do I say this? If you remove it completely and the history of it completely, you try to, from our government, it basically is the apex of where our laws come from. The idea of goodness and kindness and personal responsibility,
100%.
and and these tenets not to do these terrible things.
Yes.
When you remove that, it's a slow erosion of the breakdown.
Well, look at society. Like I took Ellie to a concert Monday night, right? And
her 15th, right?
Yeah, she was 15 on the 14th, man.
Get ready, pal.
Oh, dude. Listen, I love my daughter like, so much. She is my.
It only gets more complex from here.
But I love her because she's got such a good head on her shoulders, and she truly is an amazing kid, and she's got this good head on her shoulders and the way she sees the world. But we went to this concert, right, and there were two guys at the concert, like dressed in like baby dresses and like bonnets on, like dudes with long hair and beards. And it was so hard for me to rationalize because I'm like, one part of me is thinking those dudes lost a bet. And it's funny, right? They lost a bet.
Like it's a joke.
And that's what I would have thought 5-10 years ago, right? That's the only thing that could be.
Now you're not sure.
And that's the problem. And I couldn't, and I didn't even bring it up. We just both were kind of like, huh. Neither one of us really knew what to say. Because again, like I know, like, yes, in my 20s, we would have probably made bets like that. Hey, if you lose, you're going to go to this concert and you're going to wear a baby bonnet and a dress and just deal with it. And that would have been funny. And that would have been my first, as a guy, my first thing to think of. This was the first time in my life where I was just like, I'm not sure. And that's
unsettling.
It was such an unsettling moment for me. I didn't realize the impact of how unsettling it was until the next day I thought through it. Because we saw them, at the meet and greet and then in the concert, and like we just both looked at each other and we're like, okay, like just didn't know. And I didn't even know what to say to her. Like, oh, those are just two dudes, they definitely lost a bet, because I didn't know. And to me, like, that's where we are in society. When you remove some fundamental things, we get to a situation like that. Do you, if that's your thing, like, do you, right? I was just blown away because I didn't know what to believe in that moment.
Yeah, we're in this slippery slope where I think we're probably congruent on this. I mean, I'm fine with people doing, whatever they claim to be, and I am okay if you call yourself, certain pronouns. I don't care. I'm not militant about that. I am very laughably, comically repulsed by your expectation for me to understand and know what they are, and then you getting angry at me about that.
Yeah,
that's a whole different ball game. But
100%.
But yeah, whatever corny kind of weird weird is the word I'm using. Whatever insane kind of shit you want to do, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's your thing, that's your thing.
That's your thing.
I would just tell you that with that tolerance, all I expect is you not to expect me to agree,
correct,
or like it,
correct, or even engage.
If you feel correct, if you feel that you have we talked about this voice is going to bring back memory for you way back when Rocco and I had this conversation, and I said to the table, it was four of us, can't remember who it was. I said, do you think right now society has this problem where many people feel like they have a right to be liked?
Yeah.
Not even tolerated, not even accepted, but actually liked. And when they're not liked, there's a real problem. Well, I think that is only exacerbated
Oh, absolutely.
right now. And so you don't have a right to be liked. You're
No.
out. That's not in your control.
No,
Whether
not at
someone
all.
likes you or not
Yeah.
is not in your control. You have
Absolutely.
no claim to those. You know,
Mm-mm.
you're so, and it's usually people that are really tied into their
Mhm.
feelings. Well, conversely, you are mad that I don't like you or what you're doing.
Mhm.
Those inherently are my feelings.
Yeah.
You can't have it all.
Yeah, your feelings none of my business. The way you think of me is none of my business.
Correct. And that's how, if we all maneuvered that way,
Mhm.
but
we
I
don't.
believe if we all maneuvered that way, we wouldn't see all the bizarreness that we see today.
No, and again, no, you're right. And again, the bizarreness, like again, there was two sides of me when I saw that. Like I was, part of me was laughing. I'm like, if they lost the bet, that's funny because that's a pretty good bet, and they just look like
here's
embarrassed.
here's where I struggle. I struggle as a father and now a grandfather.
Hmm.
I don't mean that toward my grandchildren, just like I mean that in terms of my age, but I struggle because there is a slippery slope for me, because when I start viewing things like that,
Yeah.
as potentially like deviant from a sexual standpoint, I don't know often where the line's at. And I know my personal line doesn't take too far to go over my personal lines. My radar goes up, but I have to understand, like, for in the modern day society, you know, we're expected to tolerate a lot of really odd alternative behavior, but it kind of like mentally ties into like, could that be a deviant person who projects that kind of stuff? Could they be harmful to others? That's where I go. And I can't, and I'm not the best arbitrator of like where the line is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either.
But my mind starts, I won't lie. My mind goes to that. Like, is that a deviant? Is that a grown man with a beard dressing in a baby bonnet?
Yeah.
And a dress? Does that guy, is he so far different in his head? Does he have the ability to maybe project something that could be very sinister? Do you see what I mean? Like, I can't, and I'll admit that. I mean, I'm not that tolerant. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
No,
I'm not
agree.
tolerant to everything.
Agreed.
I'm not blind.
It's one of those things now. We've gotten to a point in society where whatever you think you can do, I'm supposed to not even tolerate, but accept and like. And that to me,
like,
and that's the problem. Like, I don't need to like everything.
1,000,000%.
I don't need to engage with you, right? I'll tolerate it because I'm a decent human being and I have compassion and empathy, and maybe there's something I don't know, right? But I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to engage with it. But I do think there's a lot of people out there that expect to be liked no matter what. And it's like, or there's just this, and we talked about before, just people have unreasonable expectations for life.
Yeah.
Like they expect to get X. They expect that it should be this way without doing all the stuff that's required to get there.
Yeah.
Like, just if you understand, like, to me, professionally, in any job, any career, right? I don't know how we got to career from what we were just talking about, but I look at it like you can't expect to make more or succeed if you're not doing more, right? And what people aren't even doing now is they're not even meeting the minimum requirements.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I always say, if you want to be successful in this sport, in any profession, it's really simple. Understand what's required and do 10% more most days.
Yeah.
If you do that simple thing, if I know what's required to be a really good lawyer and I just put in 10% more on most days, say 75% of the time, in a year, I will be probably better than 99% of the lawyers out there.
Yeah.
Because I put in the work consistently and I did what was required and then some. Most people aren't willing to do that.
Agreed. Yeah. It's
and they think they're entitled to being liked, to being compensated what they think they deserve without earning it. It's like, no, you have to earn my like. How about that? I don't have to like you. You have to earn it.
But is what you just said is like, isn't that the way life has always been?
Yeah, but not anymore. Not anymore. That's just not how it is.
Yeah, you don't have a right to be liked by people.
Right. You don't have to like me. I have to earn it. I have to show you that I'm a decent human being, a kind-hearted person. And if you don't like that, then that's on you.
We really struggled in this world, I think, understanding what I believe to be correct. Maybe I'm wrong. I believe that what someone thinks about me is truly not my business.
Right.
I don't have a right to their feelings.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people that are so caught up in their feelings and project their feelings and the importance of their feelings are the same people that demand that other people's feelings toward them have to be positive, which is insane.
I'm over feelings. This year has truly put me over the edge when it comes to feelings. Because I get, look, I'm a compassionate person, right? I'm empathetic, but I can't worry about every single person that I deal with on a day-to-day basis in my profession, or in my firm, or in my life in general, their feelings.
Right.
When most of the time, they're not even doing the bare minimum to get by. They're not taking responsibility themselves.
Yeah.
But they're all feelings.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, I have friends, it's like, they have issues. It's like, okay, well, what have you done to change? Well, nothing. I said, well, I don't care about your feelings because you haven't taken responsibility. Like if you are in a bad situation, you just feel like shit and you're all up in your feelings, but you're trying to do things, you're making changes, and then I'll help you. I will feel with you, right? Where I get caught up is when people want to bitch and complain about shit, but don't do anything to change it.
Yeah.
It's like either shut the fuck up and accept it or make a change and do something different.
Right. Right. But again,
that's what most people aren't willing to do.
Are people more adverse to the work, or are they more adverse to the uncomfortable feelings that it takes to self-examine? Like
both.
Like which one do you think weighs heavier on the individual?
The work, because most people aren't even thinking about self-evaluation or self-analysis or being self-aware. So work is across everyone's mind. That's harder for people, in my opinion. I think it's wrong. The harder piece is the self-assessment, the self-evaluation. Most people aren't even thinking about that.
The reason I say that is I agree with you because I believe the self-evaluation, if you can get to that honestly and with humility, the answers will immediately come to you on how to make the change and what you need to do. So the pathway should be pretty much, at least most of it. I can make these changes and change who I am as a person and maybe be a different kind of person.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean? It should come to you.
Like super. I gave our state of the firm address last Wednesday when we do every quarter, and I said, this quarter, like I want to focus on excellence. And truly, like every day, at the end of the day, I ask myself, was I excellent today? Not every day I am, right? And the days when I say, what could I have done differently? What can I improve on tomorrow? Right. But that is a single question I ask myself every single day before I go to bed in my head. Was I excellent? And as that self-evaluation at the end of every day, that I look at all the things I did or didn't do and say, was I excellent? Was I perfect? But was I excellent? Did I put everything out that I could? Or did I dog it? Or did I procrastinate? Did I half-ass it? There are many days where I do that. And then I say, okay, well, why did I half-ass it? Why did I procrastinate? What can I change? And that, to me, has helped me tremendously over my career get incrementally better. Right. Because it's a constant self-evaluation. I'm never going to get to a point where, like, I'm good. Like, I have it all figured out. Yeah. Like, the older I get, the more I know I don't know. So the more assessment I do.
I think what you just said is very key. The last month or so, you're meeting so many different people now and understanding. And it's just fascinating to see a working organization again from the inside. It's really interesting. And I have to share that there are examples of sad examples that I've seen of just a person being so socially and so socially unaware of what they project to those around them and how they treat other people, that a good group of people around them that have to deal with that person every day are upset. They believe that person is caustic, the way they go about things, pompous. I mean, pretty much any adjective you can get. And the sad part about it is not that that's unexpected. That's every organization is going to
Mhm.
have multiple people like that, probably. But when the person has a level of arrogance or level of self-centeredness, maybe
Okay.
that they can't see they can't see the way they're being received. They just can't see it.
I mean, the individual that's being received that way.
They can't see how they are being received by those around them and those they rely on every day, and those either work for that person or they report to, how they interact with everyone around them. They can't see that it's so caustic that no one likes to even deal with this person. And it's a really fascinating thing to observe, because it had been a long time where I have been on a regular basis around someone like that. Because when you're an entrepreneur, oftentimes you choose
the people you're around.
Correct. It's a luxury that I really didn't appreciate fully until taking on this little project here. You know, like, wow, I've really forgotten that, like, there are organizations will have weak spots.
Now, is it caustic because he's making changes, or
it's caustic because of a level of easily observable ineptitude?
Okay.
Lack of respect for fellow employees.
Okay.
Caustic negativity.
Okay.
Bullying to a degree.
Has anybody addressed it with this guy?
And again, I'm not deep into the organization, and I'm more on an observational circumstance right now. I don't know. I think maybe, but maybe not. I mean, obviously things like that generally do come to a head, but it's really, it's a real shame to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but a lot of times,
and it's so visible though.
But again, I asked the question because a lot of times a leader won't see it. Someone's got to address it. Like, they just think that this is how I. Like,
and in a circumstance like that, as well as I do, that people don't want to do it because they've either been intimidated, no matter their position in the company. I mean, you know how it works.
Yeah,
a persona, a bullying persona, can expand beyond the bullier's level within an organization. It can go multi different directions.
Yeah, absolutely can.
Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, again, what I've learned as a leader, not that I bully people, but there are a lot of things that I assume people know or just will agree with and do them and don't realize that they don't. So like a leader like him, where if he's creating change or doing certain things, if no one's stepping up or speaking up and saying, hey, that's not right, or hey, like, they don't know any better. Because typically you're moving in a leadership role in any organization.
Yes,
you're moving very fast and a lot of things coming at you. So unless somebody grabs you and says, hey,
100%.
You're being a shithead, these things are wrong, you should try it this way, they may assume everything's okay because no one's saying otherwise.
Yeah,
they're bitching to each other.
I'm right there with you. I think you're spot on, and I think this is nothing new. This is just, but it's been a long time since I've been around anyone even remotely like that, and I've had to really observe but my way of dealing with it at my older age is much different than it was 30 years ago.
Of course,
there already would have been and it's always tougher when you don't really, when you're not really reporting to this person. This is different, but it doesn't matter, because in a mid-sized organization, a small to mid-sized organization, everything bleeds on everything else.
Well, that's exactly right. And that's something that I realized with our firm, right? Like, a single issue or a single person or a single day can impact everybody. Like, if I'm off one day just because I'm hungry,
right?
People make the assumption I'm pissed about something. It changes the entire mood of the firm.
Certainly.
And that's the problem when you have smaller organizations, right? Because there's more impact is felt. Because, if you look at a large organization, throw a pebble in the middle of the lake, right? The ripple effects go out to here. Most organizations not touched.
Right.
Small organization, you're this big. You drop a pebble in the middle of that, the ripples knock people over
100%
because they're so close together.
Right.
That's what I'm learning as a leader of a small organization to be very cognizant of that and to be very in tune with what's going on and how people's moods are and whose mood impacts others the most, and trying to navigate that. It's hard.
Yeah. What's interesting is when we talk about mood there, I can honestly say through observation, I don't think that mood is the issue. I think it's just the persona. It's so.
But mood is part of the persona.
Maybe. I mean, we're all human. I get that, but it's just fascinating to watch. It's really interesting.
Corporate America, man.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I don't
Welcome
look at
back.
it's funny. Like, I don't look at it truly as a negative because of maybe my my lowly position here, but I just kind of it's a really fat. And after doing this podcast for 5 years and having all this not only self-examination but hearing stories and hearing all of this, to then watch how that plays out and how that affects other people, it's kind of sad sometimes. It's also kind of frustrating because it's not productive. And yet you're right. If someone is truly socially unaware, I mean, of being caustic, or being perceived as caustic, and what that does, and they're the root of it. If they're unaware, nothing would even have the chance of changing until they become aware.
Well, and the other thing is too, like, Matt and I go to Hancher's Mastermind, and he had one of the in-person ones this week. They're always phenomenal, the information we get from it. One of the things he said last week is a lot of organizations suffer because the next level down, like there's the leaders, the next level down are just yes people. They appease them by saying yes, but then are creating chaos within the organization below. And I'd rather have somebody that tells me I'm full of shit, I'm wrong.
Right.
They would really call me to the carpet. I don't want yes people. I want people to challenge me because that makes you better as a leader. If you keep telling me, everything's good, then I assume my behavior is correct. So if everybody's telling this person that, hey, everything's great, like this is awesome, they're assuming there's no issue.
100%. But you know as well as I do, if somebody is perceived to be a caustic and miserable person as their persona, most people don't want to engage like that because it's just because they're either intimidated or afraid, or they just think it's gonna not turn out good for them personally.
But then they've got to take responsibility and not fucking complain.
And that I get.
Like that's the problem I see in every organization. Like, they don't want to address it. They want to complain, but complaining doesn't solve a problem. Complaining just makes a problem known.
Yeah, and people dance around.
Yeah.
They dance around what's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes in life you have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to do the work required to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. I can, I think I've been in an observational mode only because of how new I am to the organization. Whether that stays that in an observational mode or not depends on a lot of factors. But
of course,
it's been a very interesting observation that you really a socially unaware person can do a lot of damage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anybody within an organization can do damage, but someone that is that unaware of how they are acting and perceived by others, that can cause great damage unintentionally
or intentionally.
Or intentionally, but a lot of times it's unintentional. They just don't know any better,
or a combination of both.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a challenge thing with people like that because every organization has those types of people.
100%.
And it's just learning how to navigate those conversations. 100%. Yeah,
it's a good one, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's a good one.
Always.
All right, until next week.
Yep,
we'll do it again.
Yeah.